Here's something that should terrify every gamer and investor in the gaming industry. According to a brand new survey on the state of AI in gaming, over 80% of gaming companies have absolutely nobody officially in charge of making sure their artificial intelligence is used safely and responsibly. Not badly trained, not under-resourced, nobody, zero formal oversight. It's like discovering that 80% of commercial aircraft are flying without a designated safety officer. The report surveyed 83 organizations across the gaming sector, from major studios to gambling platforms, and the findings are genuinely shocking. Companies are claiming they've got all this sophisticated AI capability built into their operations. But when researchers actually dug into whether anyone is accountable for making sure it's used ethically and transparently, the numbers collapsed. Most don't even have a basic structure to oversee what their AI systems are actually doing to players. Less than 20% have any dedicated responsible AI role at all. This isn't just bad management. It's a red flag that could lead to serious problems for players, regulators, and the gaming industry's entire reputation. And this is where it gets interesting. To understand how the gaming industry ended up in this mess, you've got to look at what's been happening over the past few years. Artificial intelligence isn't new. Games have used basic AI for NPC behavior since the 1980s. But generative AI changed everything. Suddenly, every tech executive was talking about deploying it everywhere. Automated content moderation, fraud detection, personalized gameplay, player behavior prediction, even generating game assets and dialogue. The promise was enormous. The speed of adoption was reckless. Gaming companies saw competitors jumping in and got scared of being left behind. They started deploying AI systems without really thinking through the consequences. A gambling platform adds AI to detect problem gambling. Great idea. But does anyone know if the AI actually works fairly for all player types? Does anyone know if it has hidden biases? In most cases, the honest answer is no. Game studios added AI tools to speed up development, but they didn't hire ethics experts or set up transparency frameworks first. They just shipped it. The pattern is familiar from other tech rushes: move fast, deploy everywhere, figure out the rules later. Except in gaming, the stakes are different. These systems directly affect how millions of people play, gamble, compete, and spend their time and money. And that's when the real problems start showing up. Here's where the survey gets really interesting. When researchers asked gaming companies to self-assess their AI maturity, they got responses ranging from no formal AI expertise all the way up to AI is a core organizational competency. About 37% said they had at least a developing level of AI capability. That sounds halfway reasonable until you dig one layer deeper. The researchers then cross-referenced those self-assessments against actual responsible AI practices, things like transparency, accountability, and reliability frameworks. What they found was shocking. There was basically zero correlation. A company claiming advanced AI maturity wasn't any more likely to have actual ethical safeguards in place. It's like someone claiming to be an expert pilot, but you discover nobody's ever checked if they know how to land the plane. This is the maturity illusion. Executives can point to machine learning models, chatbots, and automated systems and call themselves AI native. But if nobody's actually responsible for checking whether those systems are fair, transparent, or working correctly, then the maturity is purely cosmetic. A gaming platform could have deployed AI fraud detection everywhere and still have zero idea whether it's biased against certain player demographics. That's not capability. That's just recklessness wearing a business suit. But here's what nobody's talking about. So what's actually happening out there? Gaming studios are using AI to generate background art, create procedurally generated levels, and speed up animation workflows. That's genuinely useful. Gambling platforms are deploying AI to identify players showing signs of problem gambling, which sounds good until you realize the models are often trained on incomplete data and nobody's measuring their accuracy across different player segments. Esports platforms are using machine learning to detect cheating and match players fairly. Again, genuinely valuable if it's done right. Here's where it breaks down. Most of these systems are black boxes. Players don't know when they're being shaped by AI. Game studios don't publish transparency reports about what their AI systems actually do. Gambling regulators aren't checking whether the AI makes fair decisions. It's the worst of both worlds. The technology exists and is being used, but there's no visibility, no accountability, and no way to appeal when the AI gets it wrong. In some jurisdictions, a player could be flagged as a problem gambler and have their account restricted based entirely on patterns an AI detected. They'd have no way to know what the AI saw, no way to dispute the decision, and no human to appeal to. Imagine being banned from a game you love and nobody will tell you why. This is already happening in some regions, and it's happening because the gaming companies moved faster than their governance frameworks could handle. And this is just the beginning of the real consequences. Here's something interesting. The gaming industry is actually worse at responsible AI governance than many other sectors. Banking and finance have been forced to implement AI oversight because of regulations and the sheer volume of lawsuits. Healthcare has strict requirements because lives are literally at stake. But gaming, it's largely unregulated. There's no legal requirement to have a responsible AI officer. There's no mandatory transparency framework. So companies just don't compare the gaming numbers to what we are seeing in other industries. In finance, we've got regulatory frameworks requiring explainability and fairness audits. In healthcare, AI systems get reviewed before they touch patients. In advertising, there are at least some disclosure requirements. Gaming's survey showed that 37% of companies have developing AI capability, but less than 15% have any formal governance structure. None. That means for every company trying to do responsible AI, there are probably two others cutting corners. The twisted part is that gaming directly involves vulnerable populations. Kids play these games. People with gambling addictions are targeted by these platforms. Yet gaming companies are deploying AI with less oversight than a healthcare provider uses to schedule appointments. The gap between gaming and regulated industries is huge, and that gap is where problems hide. The industry had a chance to build responsible AI from the start. Instead, they're playing catch-up while systems are already live and making decisions about people's access and spending. Let's talk about what actually happens when you have powerful AI systems with zero oversight. In gambling, AI fraud detection systems can be trained to spot suspicious betting patterns, but if those patterns correlate with certain demographics, maybe younger players or players from specific countries, the AI will replicate and amplify that bias. Players get flagged as suspicious not because they're actually cheating, but because the AI learned to proxy for human biases. In game studios, AI-generated content can accidentally reproduce harmful stereotypes if the training data wasn't carefully curated. An AI character generator trained on certain internet data might end up generating characters that reflect the internet's biases, and nobody notices until the game ships and players call it out. In esports, AI-based anti-cheat systems are increasingly aggressive. Some are now kernel-level software that monitors everything on your computer. That raises privacy questions. But if the AI makes mistakes and bans a professional player, who's responsible? The studio, the AI company, the player has no recourse. The real danger is systemic. When AI shapes the experience of millions of players without any accountability layer, problems don't get caught. They don't get reported. They don't get fixed. They just compound. A player unfairly restricted from a gambling platform loses money. A teenager is exposed to stereotypical content in a game. A pro player is banned from esports based on a false positive. These aren't hypothetical. They are happening right now. And here's what nobody's doing about it. If you run a gaming company, here's what responsible AI governance actually looks like. First, hire someone, not a contractor. A full-time person or ideally a whole team whose entire job is making sure your AI systems are fair, transparent, and working correctly. They need authority, not to block every AI project, but to say, wait, we need to measure this or this needs an audit before we ship it. Second, measure everything. Before you deploy an AI system, test it against different player segments. Ask, does it work equally well for all groups? Does it have hidden biases? What happens if it's wrong? Document the answers. Third, be transparent. Tell players that AI is shaping their experience. Explain what the AI is doing in plain English. If an AI system makes a decision about a player, flagging them as a problem gambler banning them for cheating, restricting their access. That player deserves to know why and have a path to appeal to a human. Fourth, get your regulators involved early. Work with gaming commissions and gambling authorities to build standards together instead of fighting about them later. Fifth, fund research. Gaming companies should be publishing papers about responsible AI in games. They should be working with universities. They should be building the standards the industry currently lacks. This isn't hard. Banks figured it out. Healthcare figured it out. Gaming just needs to actually care, and right now, most companies don't yet. Here's what this means for you. If you're a gamer, AI is already shaping your experience, which games you're recommended, what you see, how you're matched with other players, and nobody's officially checking whether it's fair. If you're an investor in gaming, you're facing regulatory risk. Regulators will eventually catch up. When they do, companies without governance frameworks are going to face fines and restrictions. If you're a game developer or studio executive, the window to do this right is closing. The more AI you deploy, the harder governance becomes. Companies that build responsible AI now will have a massive advantage when regulations arrive. The good news is that this is fixable. Gaming doesn't need some revolutionary new approach. It just needs to apply what banking, healthcare, and other regulated industries already know. Hire responsible AI people. Audit your systems. Be transparent. Involve regulators. The bad news is that most gaming companies won't do this voluntarily. They'll wait for regulations to force them. They'll wait for lawsuits. They'll wait for scandals. The gaming industry had a chance to be responsible from the start, to set a different tone than tech usually does, to prove that you can move fast without breaking everything. Instead, we are watching the same pattern repeat. Move fast, deploy everywhere, figure out the rules later. Except this time, the stakes involve millions of players and billions in revenue. Follow for daily AI news to stay on top of what happens next.